I think founders and we'll say the C-suite, I think in general, unless there's a marketing background, you know, marketing is the one job that everyone thinks they can do, right? But they don't have to be an expert at it. Meaning that I can't, and I'm embarrassed to tell you how many times I've had someone come to me and say, "Hey, you know that blue in the logo? My wife likes a lighter shade of green. Can you do that?" So everybody thinks they have a marketing input. So I think people have trouble, figuring out what it is that marketing does and how it can help them, right? You're never going to have this with coding or with finance or with sales.
Welcome to Outsource to Profits. This is Jamie Shanks. I have a great guest who we did business together years ago at Thomson Reuters. Now, Larry, how about you introduce yourself and then we'll go into the topic.
Sure, Jamie. Thanks for inviting me to this. My name is Larry Schwartz. I'm the founder and president of Schwartz Marketing. What Schwartz Marketing does is that we work very often with the C-suite, the leadership, the founders of small and mid-sized, sometimes large companies, and help them figure out how to mesh their marketing needs with their product and revenue and sales strategy. That's in a nutshell.
So I'm going to tell you a story. It's COVID starts. And COVID starts, I was on 80 flights a year for 5 or 6 years straight. The number of sales kickoffs and events I did for Thomson Reuters as an example. All around. I remember the one in Boca Raton. So now all of a sudden it's March or April of 2020. And 50% of my life was just bought back because now I'm still able to run Sales for Life, but from the comfort of my home, I'm not on planes, trains, and automobiles anymore. And I start another agency called Pipeline Signals that does kind of data analysis on job changes from COVID and start hiring a team and growing it without ever meeting anybody. Data analysts, engineers, marketers, and so forth. And I also get a call. This is later into 2020 as COVID rules would change by the week. You could leave the US, you couldn't leave the US. And there's a gentleman that he called me, he said, "You wouldn't believe it. I just built this giant team in Manila, Philippines. I had done it virtually. I just flew in to meet the team. I come back to the US. It had completely opened my eyes to, oh my God, this is the future of so much of go-to-market. His marketing team, his customer support team, his sales and business development team, we're all in Manila. And this guy went from zero to hero in a year because of this labor arbitrage. So that's what you and I were talking about offline is marketers that you deal with. You deal with the founders and then the marketing leaders. Maybe pose for us, what is the core mental barrier or the legacy biases that's affecting their ability to see objectively about how do they solve their marketing challenge with the limited resources they have?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think founders and we'll say the C-suite, I think in general, unless there's a marketing background, marketing is the one job that everyone thinks they can do, right? But they don't have to be an expert at it. Meaning that I can't, and I'm embarrassed to tell you how many times I've had someone come to me and say, "Hey, you know that blue in the logo? My wife likes a lighter shade of green. Can you do that?" So everybody thinks they have a marketing input. So I think people have trouble, figuring out what it is that marketing does and how it can help them, right? You're never going to have this with coding or with finance or with sales. So once they realize what is going into marketing and some of those specific tasks don't have to be done in that same room. So let me give you an example. I'm working with a client now and we're doing some Google ads, right? So we create the keywords and, we're doing some SEO. The people that are actually doing it, and I initially hired people here in the US to do that, you create the ads, for Google, and then you have to monitor them. So the monitoring of the ads, the daily monitoring and the allocation of the funds for the ads, that could be done anywhere. Now, I never met these people here in the US that did it. I found them and same thing. And I'm thinking, and then I met some people who I through connections in India. It was half price. Now, again, so now the ads themselves, obviously the cost is the same for Google, right? Google will, they don't care where you are, they want their money. But there's a whole back end to Google, to advertising, which is the monitoring, the optimization, the tracking, the analytics. It does not matter to me if the person's in the next room, next door, next town, or halfway around the world. So I think people now are opening up a little bit, saying, hey, wait a minute, what else could we do? And how else can it be done more efficiently and more effectively?
Now, just in that example, now all of a sudden you're the founder,
Right.
and you had an expectation that your marketing ads would get you
Right.
X. Well, you just found a 2X labor arbitrage that would effectively allow me to double my ad spend. So I can do twice as many tests. Now I can do twice as many A/B tests. I can conceivably receive twice as many leads just by changing who was doing the analysis or the capturing of the metrics from the Google ads and then the analysis. Let's keep diving in. What are other marketing tasks where I call these $500 an hour value creators? That's where the CMO is developing the intellectual property, the strategy, the vision for the campaigns.
Right.
And then I call it the $5 an hour tasks. There's the pull through of making that campaign come alive. What are other pieces where you would look right in the eyes of the CMO and say, you're really going to pay somebody to do X for Y? What are some of those other things?
So, it's very the tactics, the actual nuts and bolts tactics, right? When you want to do a go-to-market campaign, right, you want to sit there and you're going to sit and develop a plan with the CEO, CMO, CRO, whoever it is, the head of sales. You want to develop that plan is probably done in the room. But the tactics that are going to be employed to execute the campaign, I mentioned Google ads. There's also not just other kinds of, of SEO for the website. Email. Email's huge, okay? I mean, everyone does email. The actual, now, whether or not you want to write the email locally, and again, you do have to be careful about language and tone. But again, all over the world, listen, I have friends in New York that, you don't want them writing emails for you. And then people halfway around the world that can do it very well. But the actual email, if you're using HubSpot, Zoho, or, Pardo, anything you're using, that could easily be done afterwards. And again, I'm going to go back to this. The analytics is critical, right? What I need, my lifeblood is data. I need the data. How did that campaign do? Let's do an A/B test. Which companies open the email more? All that analysis can easily be done, somewhere else. So anything that has to do with analytics and more marketing relies on analytics. That can be done very easily by almost anywhere around the world. And you know what? I'm going to add one more thing about it. The time difference, which some people see as a negative, personally, I see it as a positive. I can end my workday here in New York, right? I spend all day working. I end the day in New York. I can give some instructions overnight while I'm sleeping and they're awake in whatever country I'm dealing with. They can do the work. So when I get up the next day, that work is done for me. And then you'd be surprised at how much time. And again, I know you can put money, towards that, but realistically, the time I'm gaining by working with someone overseas who can do some work while I'm sleeping, and then I can act on it the next day, multiply that by 14 different campaigns, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, I'll give you some context for everybody listening in the audience. So I pulled out of Indeed.com the average salary, not in San Francisco and New York. I think it was like middle America that you could choose by city. A social media manager. So this is somebody who's taking content created by somebody else in marketing. So a videographer has edited video. And now this social media manager, maybe they're not even the caption writer, the copywriter. They are the person who is deploying videos into a tool like Content Studio or Hootsuite, and then sharing those on social media in a waterfall, like a matrix, making sure that it's shared multiple times over multiple social platforms, and then engaging and commenting on anyone that does, and then pulling the analytics of that being done. That salary ranged between $60,000 and $75,000 US dollars.
That's right.
So for that same equivalent, you could have two different, not same equivalent, For $24,000, you could have 2 shifts a day running 24 hours a day shift for customer facing and a night shift for overnight activation for $24,000 in an offshore market like Bangladesh.
Yeah.
It's the same execution, twice the throughput for a third of the price. And so what a lot of people don't realize is a third of the price, that savings of, let's call it $30,000 in profit saved. If you're a 20% EBITDA business, that's 30,000 times 5. It's $150,000 you didn't need to go sell to achieve the same profitability. Where are you advising your customers to start executing on these plans? And what has been some of their pushback? Maybe some of the, again, back to that legacy bias, where are they saying, well, I don't know?
Yeah. So listen, you're always going to have some of that, I don't know, because again, even you see it now, post-COVID, some people, no, I need you to see, Jamie, you have to be in the office. I didn't see you, you're not, what are you working on? You could, and I just know from my own personal example, and a lot of my friends, they work more during COVID than not, because you wake up, again, I'm in New York. Okay. So my hour and 10-minute commute each way, it was the greatest thing in the world to roll out of bed, and I could be here later, I could be here earlier and I could be here later. People work more, I think, during COVID. So I think, other than the mindset of, I need to see the person, I think the proof is in the pudding. Once you do this, and again, to your point, this is a cheap trial. You could do it. You could execute on some of the things that you and I are talking about right now for not a lot of money, and you could show results very quickly, right? Running 2 shifts, like you just said, or showing what someone could do overseas. It's not a long-term commitment. If you hire somebody in the U.S. or, again, you and I, we work in Canada. If you hire a full-time employee in Canada or someplace in Europe, you're locked into that person for, a long time.
Oh, the severance
is bad. The best thing to do. The best thing to happen is you being fired in Canada or Europe. I mean, that's the dream. For all my Canadian friends out there, I'm sorry if it happens to you. It's happened to all of us, but you got a good gig going. But here you can do something relatively quickly. Listen, I'll give you another example. For creative. I give instructions for creative, right? Now, the person doesn't have to be right next to me, okay? The creative is only as good as the instructions I give and the ability of the designer and the creative person doing it. And I've done this overseas where, let me have 3 or 4 examples of what you can do. They typically can do it quicker. They can do it certainly, cheaper. And you just get more examples. And what I've actually done is I've actually gone to a few different creative things because it was so cost effective that instead of me going to the person I used to deal with here for X dollars an hour, I got to go to 2 different people and say, you know what? I don't know these people yet. Let me give them a shot. I can give them a shot. I can be a big shot here. And they try it. And again, it's not that expensive. And you also have the ability very often with these firms is that you can go one-on-one or freelance, or even a longer term thing. If things work out, you can do long term, but it's not a handcuff. You're not really ever locked in long term. So people like that. The result, to answer your question, I know a roundabout way, I think the results speak for themselves. I think if you have the opportunity to try, you show the founders, hey, here's what happened. Here's what I did, and here's what happened. What do you want to do next? It's almost always keep going.
This is fantastic. Larry, tell the audience, number 1, how do people get a hold of you? And 2, what do you work on? What does your ideal customer look like if they want to get a hold of you?
So you can look me up on schwartzmarketing.com or Larry at Schwartz Marketing. You can get me directly through that as the first way. And my clients, it's a big range. I have worked with startups, very often with startups. A lot of firms also, I either come in as the marketing guy, right? Because most firms, and Jamie, you started a bunch of firms, right? Most firms, marketing is not one of the first 10 hires, okay? You need marketing, and I'm the first to admit, don't hire marketing before sales, okay? Don't hire marketing before you know what your product is. That's okay. What people do, they do need marketing expertise and to help create a go-to-market plan. Even if the budget's not there, they need that expertise. So again, that's where I can come in. I can come in for a short term and show them what can be done in a cost-effective manner. So those are my best type of clients. I've had some very large, like I said, Thomson Reuters. I've had some big ones too, but I like the small to medium-sized ones.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, and excited for the growth of your business.
Thank you, Jay. It was great talking to you again.
Thank you.